Beautiful. So now that we are focused and calmed and ready to go for our day, we are going to switch over into our reading lesson. Yesterday, I was amazed at your skills and context clues. And I noticed that there were a lot of different ideas that happened and that came from the book, but almost every single one that I read made sense. So that was wonderful for me to see. And it tells me that we're really actively thinking about what the vocabulary inside of our texts can mean. To start out today, I want to quickly review the 3 words that you were asked to use your context clues for yesterday. Yesterday, you were shown the word separate. And inside of this sentence, it said, a few people were waiting on benches for the bus, but we stayed separate from the others and kept quiet. Quite a few of you said that this meant away. So when I put that word in the sentence, a few people were waiting on benches from the bus, but we stayed away from the others and kept quiet. That made sense. A couple of you put that it meant alone. We were waiting on benches for the bus, but we stayed alone from the others and kept quiet. So we were alone in our group and they were alone in their groups, and that worked as well. The next word you were asked to look at was current. And something happened that was very interesting. Several of you, when we were having conversations yesterday, said that you know that current means right now, like a current event, or currently we are on Zoom. But when you looked at what was happening in the story, there was a lot of, oh, and a lot of you said that you figured out current meant moving water or waves or strong force in water, because the sentence said, Papa and I took the inner tube and tried to cross, but the current was too strong. And you knew the right now was too strong. That didn't make sense. And then you looked at this picture, which is another context clue, and you said, oh, they're trying to swim and move in a tube, but they can't because something's pushing that's too strong. So you figured out that current can also mean strong water. The final one was embraced. This one was our most tricky. She embraced me and we held each other for a long time. We looked at this word embraced and a lot of you said it means loved. She loved me. She was excited to see me. But when we look at the context of, and we held each other for a long time, now we can imagine in our head when I'm being held for a long time by someone that I haven't seen, that's a hug. Yeah, so it's like an embrace is a hug. So we did a really nice job at looking at those context clues yesterday. Today, I want us to continue practicing with context clues, and we are going to stay in the vein or inside of the topic of our immigration stories. You guys really enjoyed the context clues vocabulary, so we're going to watch that vocabulary again, and then I'm going to send you into some breakout rooms to explain how to use context clues. So I want you to be thinking about, how do I use context clues? What does that mean? How do those help me? Okay, so as we're watching, think about how you can use these clues, and you'll be sharing that in a breakout room next. Here we go.
Oh, look. A word I don't know. Well, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be looking for clues in the context. When I find a new word that's written in a sentence, I look around to see if a similar one is mentioned. That's a synonym, the first clue I use. Like, the actress read through a book and perused a newspaper. And then she took a snooze. Peruse, that's new, so I search for a clue. I see she was reading. Could it be true? Peruse must be a synonym for read through. But if I can't find the answer, then maybe there's an opposite word or an antonym. Like, Langston was jubilant when he got the news before he found out he was depressed with the blues. Jubilant and depressed must be antonyms. Depressed means sad, jubilant must mean happy then. 2 new words, peruse, jubilant with synonyms and antonyms, you don't have to Google it. On a top secret mission, check the method. 3 words I don't know like a word detective. Search within the sentence. Look for synonyms, antonyms, explanations, examples. On a top secret mission, check the method. Treat words I don't know like a word detective. Search within the sentence. Look for synonyms, antonyms, explanations, examples. Detectives? When reading through phrases, you might find the third clue, an explanation. Let's take a look and try to crack this case then. The mansion was dilapidated. The windows were broken, the paint was faded. I'm pretty sure a pack of rats had invaded. Those lines explain the word I didn't know. Dilapidated means falling down and old. Clue 4, I look for examples of the word that might illustrate how to define the term. Eating sweets was against Capone's wishes, just fruits and vegetables which are nutritious. I know fruits and vegetables are healthy dishes. These examples lead me to the meaning of nutritious. All these examples and explanations are clues to crack the case like Perry Mason. On a top secret mission, check the method. Treat words I don't know like a word detective. Search within the sentence. Look for synonyms, antonyms, explanations, examples. On a top secret mission, check the method. Treat words I don't know like a word detective. Search within the sentence. Look for synonyms, antonyms, explanations, examples.
Alrighty, inside of your breakout rooms, I'm going to ask for you to explain to each other how can you use text clues to figure out unknown words. How can you use text clues? So here come your invites. How can you use context clues to figure out unknown words? Here you go. Come back. So how can context clues help you figure out the meaning of unknown words? Terrence, talk with us. How can context clues help us?
So, like, if there's a word that you don't know, you can't just skip it because then you won't know the meaning of the sentence. And
Okay.
then because the reason you need context clues is you look at the picture and find out what it is, or you could see if you could find out some ways and then see which one's the best fitting.
Nice. There were two things that you said there that I think were really helpful. One is we can look at some pictures for sure. And two, you said you can look at the word to see what is the best fit. Because just like yesterday with that word current, it might have more than one meaning, but which one is going to make the most sense? So context clues is all about making sure what we read makes sense. Does it make sense or not? Great. Aiden G, something to add.
The reason why we need context clues is because if we don't know what a word means, we can look for a content clue to see what the word means.
Yes, so looking around the text and seeing what other information can I put together to figure out the meaning here. Good. So as active readers, we have to stop saying, oh, well, I don't know what that word is, and moving on, because we have the ability to look for clues and figure it out, which means we're thinking about what words mean. We're thinking about what we can be learning and what we can be interested in as we're reading and making sense of it. Very good discussion. Thank you for contributing there. So as I shared with you, we're going to continue on with context clues today, but we're going to use another story. And just like yesterday, there's going to be a page from that text that is copied for you. And you're going to tell me the meaning of some of the words on those pages. Now, the series that we're getting ready to start is probably my favorite series of books that we read throughout school. They are throughout third grade. They are true stories, but they've been illustrated to look like a fiction story, but they are the stories of children who have immigrated for one reason or another in their life. So the stories that we read are true. The story that we're going to read today is called Ali's Story. And Ali is going to tell us about his journey from Afghanistan. So he left a country called Afghanistan, and he is going to be telling us about why he did that and what happened to his family on the way. So that is what we're going to read, but your job is going to be to figure out the meaning of unknown words from Ali's story. You are also going to tell something you learned from the text and explain how the story made you feel. I want to kind of work backwards and start right here. We're going to start with something that you learned and how the story made you feel, okay? So on Mayan, you have at the top a tab that says projects. Mine says classroom because I'm the teacher, but yours says project. When you click on that project tab, you're going to have a colored box that says immigration stories. When you go to immigration stories, you'll have some pictures pop up, and we're going to read Ali's story. I'm going to play this together here, and then I'm going to send you to some breakout rooms to discuss something you learned and how the story made you feel. And then we'll get into our context clues work. Okay? So please just listen to the story and be thinking about what you're learning and about how the text is making you feel. Here we are, Ali's story, a real-life account of his journey from Afghanistan.
Ali's Story, a real-life account of his journey from Afghanistan, by Andy Glynn and Salvador Maldonado. My name is Ali. This is the story of my journey from Afghanistan. My family and I lived in Afghanistan. There were mountains and a lot of dust. Most people weren't rich. They didn't have houses. Instead, they lived in tents. There was always fighting going on. The war started to get worse. There were a lot of helicopters in the sky. Tanks bombed our town and other cities. Sometimes I would look around and see the fighting going on. It made me very scared, but also really sad. The war got so bad, my grandma decided that we should all pack our bags. We needed to go to a safer place in Europe. When we got to the airport, the officials let my grandma and me in, but they turned my mom and dad away. The officials said that my parents did not have passports. They had to go back home. My grandma and I got on the plane. We thought my mom and dad were following behind us on another plane. When we arrived in the new country, we waited for the next plane. My parents weren't on it. My grandma and I were safe in this strange new country, but we didn't know what had happened to my mom and dad. We felt alone and afraid. Sometimes I'd dream that my mom would pick me up from school and walk me home. Then I would wake up and my grandma would be there instead. Then I'd realize it was all a dream. It made me sad to think that my parents were back in Afghanistan with all the fighting and war. I dreamed about them all the time. I cried every night. It felt like the bones in my body were broken. Sometimes I felt angry. Most of the time, I felt really sad. I learned a lot of new things at school, but it was really frustrating that I couldn't speak English. The only word I knew was, yes. Sometimes I got embarrassed when I didn't know the right word for something. In the beginning, I sat in a corner of the playground watching all the other kids play. Sometimes people would ask me to play with them. Soon, I had a group of friends that I played soccer with at school. I really love drawing. Everyone is amazed by my pictures. Every day, I draw a special picture to show people at school. Sometimes it's a picture of my whole family, just my mom and dad, me, or a superhero. I really like superheroes. 4.5 years passed. Then one day, we got a phone call. My cousin said that he'd seen my dad praying in the mosque. Then he handed the phone to my mom and dad. I talked to them for the first time in years. It made me feel so happy. My biggest wish is that my mom and dad will be able to come to this country. It feels like it will happen soon. I get upset when I think about them. I wish they could come right now. I can't wait for that day.
Alrighty, you were asked to think about two things. The first thing is something you learned. The second thing is how this text made you feel. So I'm going to send you to some breakout rooms. The first thing I want you to discuss is what is something that you learned from this text? What did you learn from this text? Here come your invites. Alrighty, I am curious, what is something that you learned from this text? What did you learn from this text? Aiden Hampton?
He was really sad that his family left and he really wanted them to come back.
Yeah, so we learned there's some emotions involved in this for sure. Christopher, what did you learn?
That not everyone can come where you are.
Yeah, not everyone gets to immigrate and gets to go. There has to be some paperwork that has to be processed. Sometimes there's unfair policies. Sometimes there's good reasons. But yeah, not everyone gets to immigrate at the same time with the same group of people. Terrence, what's something that you learned?
Not everybody gets their way.
Yeah, that's a tough life lesson, isn't it? It's not fair sometimes, doesn't feel right sometimes, but yeah, not everyone's going to be able to get what they want. Anything else that we learned from this text? Leah?
A war can happen in a lot of countries.
Yeah, we read yesterday a text where there was a war happening, and there was a war happening in this text as well. Many countries across the world do have wars happening on their soil and on their land. Yes. Anything more that anyone wanted to share about what they learned? Okay. My next question to you is, how did this story make you feel? Remembering that Ali is a real person in the real world, and this is really what happened to him and his family. How did this story make you feel? And I want you to be able to focus on both the beginning, the middle, and the end of Ali's story. What feelings did you experience as you were listening to Ali's story? Here are your invites. What emotions did we experience? William, what did you experience?
I was kind of sad and mad at the same time.
What made you feel sad and mad?
Because what made me feel upset and me mad was that his parents couldn't come with him. And what made me sad was that he had to leave.
Yeah, so you had kind of those conflicting emotions, right? If he stayed, he would be with his parents, but also he would be unsafe. But if he leaves, he doesn't get to be with his family. So yeah, that's a really complicated situation. Thank you for sharing. Josh, how did you feel?
I felt sad because, in that, he basically had to be apart from his family, so he couldn't see his dad or mom, and he didn't get to see or talk to them for 4.5 years, and that just made me sad because he had to go through all of that.
Yeah, so that's kind of a strange concept to think about. Even if we don't get to see them, we don't even get to talk to them, right? We can all Zoom right now, right? You haven't seen me all year, but we still get to Zoom. And then you have this situation with Ali where he didn't get to see his family and he didn't even get to talk to them for 4.5 years. So that can definitely take a strong emotional toll. Terrence, what about you, bud? What emotions did you experience?
In the mid and at the beginning, they wouldn't let them get on in the. They wouldn't. I mean, there was a war in the middle. They were trying to get on the plane, and they didn't let their parents get on. And in the end, they talk to their family,
How did you
and I feel sad.
Okay, so you sad at the beginning when he wasn't able to be there. How did you feel at the end when he did get to talk to his family? Did your emotion change?
Yes,
What did it change to?
happy.
Yeah, he kind of got to have that glimmer of happiness. We were walking with Ali and his whole story and how upset he was and how much he missed them and that he dreamed about them and he'd realize it wasn't true. And then he gets this glimmer of hope, right? So my emotional journey was similar to that. I was very sad, and William, I experienced some anger as well. And then I started to feel this hope, right? He said he starts to feel like, I think they're going to be able to come here soon. So that makes me feel hopeful, like, oh, wow, this is awesome that he would get that opportunity to be with his family. So my emotional journey was a bit of a roller coaster as well, and changed as the events in his story happened. All right, thank you for sharing, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Did you want to share? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I feel mad because I felt there wasn't civil rights back then, so I think that someone wasn't having them let them through because there was civil rights back then.
Yeah, so I like that connection to civil rights movement there that you're making. So you're kind of connecting this to an injustice, right? You're thinking maybe this wasn't right that his parents didn't get to come through. You think there might have been something else going on. That's interesting. So inside of the text, we heard that his family did not have a passport, and you do have to have a passport to immigrate, but we don't necessarily know the reasons that they didn't have one. So there could be a connection there. It's a great connection. Thank you for sharing, Senkyu. So today on Seesaw, you have been asked to do 1 through 3, which we've done. We've looked at our notes on context clues. We've listened to Ali's story. And today we're going to watch a description of the task that you are going to complete. So inside of your add response, you have a reminder of the types of context clues we're using, and then you have a picture of what the book looks like on Mayan. So again, on Mayan, you go to projects, and then you'll click on the square that says immigration stories, and you're looking for this picture if you want to read the text again. On slides 3 and 4, you have a word that has been identified that you are going to figure out the meaning of. The word on slide 3 is officials. What does officials mean? And how do you know? What clues told you? On slide 4, you're going to figure out what realize means. What does realize mean and what clues told you? On slide 5, you're going to record what we just discussed about. What's one thing that you learned? And what emotions did you experience? Okay, so this is the work that you're getting ready to complete inside of your breakout room. I'm going to have you talk about those 2 words, officials and realize, and what do they mean and how do you know? So what context clues can you use? What questions can I answer about the assignment expectation before I release you to work? What questions can I answer? We know what we're doing? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, 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 yes. Okay, awesome. Here come your invite. You know what? Let me make sure I have released this to you. I have. It is inside of your activities on Seesaw. It is called Context Clues, Ali's Story. Context Clues, Ali's Story. Go ahead and add your response, and I will send you your breakout room invites now. So you are going to complete any part of this that you did not complete with your group for your independent work. If you get done with that, I am going to ask that you go to Mayan and you go to your projects. It's that folder with the pencil. And I'm going to ask that you read the immigration stories. So I'm going to ask that you take some time to listen to or to read these stories on your own to build some background knowledge on immigration as we get ready to study this unit, okay? So if you finish your Seesaw assignment, Go on to Mayan in the Immigration Stories Project and read some of these stories that are here. Okay? Alrighty. This is the end of our context clues lesson. If you have questions, please stay logged on. If you do not have questions, I will see you back at 12 o'clock for your math lesson. Make sure that you are working on Seesaw, Lexia, or Mayan between now and lunch. Bye.